Happy Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, to all my Chicanos, my Mexican Americans, my brown people whose background is Mexican, whatever you want to call it. And I am not congratulating Mexicans because this is not a holiday in their country. This is only a holiday in our United States. Now, some states celebrate it more than others. Of course, those that have Mexican American heritage, like California, like Arizona, like Nevada, like Oregon. All these places that have Mexican, and Chicago has a lot of Mexicans, but they don't have Mexican American origins. It's more like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, the Southwest. So in honor, as a homage to Mexican Americans or Mexicans that reside in the United States, I am going to put, like you guys hear in the title, is JP. No soy de aquí, ni soy de allá. I'm not from here, I'm not from over there. And the reason why I'm choosing this song is because I relate to it so much, being Dominican American. I mean, from Dominican parents, born in the United States, and I lived in both countries. I lived in Dominican Republic from the time I was 10 years old to 8 years old. So I know about the prejudice that countries where our parents, or maybe we were born, because some people are born in those in other countries, and then they come to the United States at a certain age, and they become adjusted to the United States. They feel Americans because they were raised here. So I living in Dominican Republic, I remember the prejudice they had against Dominican Yorks. Now, at that time, Dominican Yorks were the people who were from Dominican Republic and moved to New York. But they usually had a lot of gold chains and bracelets and rings, and they're always full of gold. And Dominicans were not too happy about them and the reputation that they were giving Dominican Republic in New York. So technically speaking, my mom was a Dominican York and my father, because they moved there in the 1960s, and they met there, by the way. Neither one of my history, my background is not that my family moved here together. My father came along first, then my mother came, they met in New York, and they had me. So, they got together, they had me. So I'm like totally made in the United States. Had they not traveled to New York, had they not met in New York, I would have never been born. That's the reality, because they did not come together. They didn't know each other in Dominican Republic. But I also relate that to Puerto Ricans. I know New Yorkers go through the same thing, because I grew up with New Yorkers. It sounds like it happens to most of the people who are whose parents or who came from another country but grew up here, that people always from those countries talk poorly about us. And the same thing, Puerto Ricans do to New Yorkers. And apparently, for what Mexican Americans have said and the experience, I mean, I didn't grow up with Mexican American, I grew up with New Yorkers. But I lived in California long enough to know that, that Mexicans from Mexico don't consider Mexican American that much of a Mexican. They don't consider them. So I don't know why we go through this, but anyhow, that's why I'm going to play this song. Let's get right into it, because I'm talking too much and then it becomes a long video and I want people to watch it. Hopefully you'll let me play it too. JP.
Aquí les va una rolita que dice la pura neta. Oigan a mi compa JP, échenle, no chillen, cabrones.
Yo no tuve opinión, me trajeron un morrillo, cuando dijo mi papá, vamos cruzando el río.
Okay, I'm sorry because I got caught up with it. But the point is, the lady starts talking like, celebrating. Come on, you're here right now. You're in the United States, so give the best that you can. Don't be crying. No, chille means don't cry, Mexican terminology. Because you're like crying for your country. And, I don't blame them though. Where is it? Does it say Mexico? But I don't blame them anyway, because I was born in New York, so I don't have that love feeling that my mom had for the Dominican Republic, and I can understand her. Being the fact that I lived there, I experienced it, I can understand why she loved it so much as she did, and why Mexicans here do the same thing. But he's talking about, then he starts singing and he starts saying that he came here when he was a little kid, so he had no choice. He had no opinion in the matter. They just told him, you gotta come, because that's what parents do. Again, not in my case. Both of my parents came I wasn't born when they were and they were not together when they came, so I don't have that family experience. Okay, so he's talking about how his face and his skin is not accepted, but with the years, he says a bad word, but he means that he went forward. I mean, he worked hard. He sacrificed himself. He did what he had to do to learn English. I think that's what comes from. That's true, and that happens with people who are born here, Latinos that are born here. That happens to us. So imagine how they treat people who are born in another country and coming over here. But he's saying that his language and his skin was not accepted, but he made the effort. He put himself and he studied so that he could learn the language. But don't think that now because he speaks English that they treat him differently, because to the gringo he's just a wetback. So I don't care what they say, I don't care what they think about me. My son is gonna be the president of this country. So he's talking about that Latinos here come to work hard. They come to grow, to become better. Like, we're not lazy. And then he goes, Loretta Sanchez, I think she was a congresswoman from California, if I'm not mistaken. I should have Googled it, but no, I'm not. But I know that that he said, he's asking her, hey, who cleans your shoes? Who shines your shoes? Hey, Loretta Sanchez, ¿quién te limpia los zapatos? Who cleans your shoes? Who shines them? So then he say, if you keep whining and not put any effort into it, you're just gonna have to go back to Mexico, go back to like someone who's not grateful. Like, you gotta be grateful that you're here. You walked, you crossed that river, you're here now. Give it your best. Stop whining about back in the country. And they did that with Dominicans too. There was a song that they sang about, but the merengue song that they sang, it was more lovable, more kind than the way he's saying it. He's like, stop crying. Wipe your tears, get up, go to work. You gotta make yourself a better person. You gotta grow, financially, and education and everything. You gotta become better. But Dominican, the song was more like, talking about the experience of the Dominican leaving. I always thought about my mom, with one foot here and one foot there. I got one foot here and I got another foot there. That was my mom. And a lot of Latinos that come here to the United States. But I mean, again, I can understand, because I have been around and I have moved, so I know the nostalgia that you get, because the past is always better. Nobody explained that better than Gabriel Garcia Marquez en El Amor en los Tiempos de Cólera, Love in the Time of Cholera. Nobody explains that better. The beginning, you get that book, you don't have to read the entire book if you don't like reading. But if you do and you haven't read it, dig into it, because that's a great book. That's a great story. Listen, at the very beginning he starts and he says it, how this guy is fantasizing how great his country was when he was in France. And then when he returned and saw the infrastructure, saw the street, how tore apart they were, the city, how it was full of mud, he was like, what was I thinking? I was glorifying this. So you see, he's saying, I love my country, I love Mexico, and I'm going to go back and they're going to bury me there. But right now I'm here and I have to make the best out of this.
aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá. Con dos acentos en la lengua llegaré a triunfar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá.
Okay, I love that part too. So, because I'm not from here, I'm not from over there, but this is where I'm at, this is what I like. And then he said, with two accents in my languages, because he has an accent in Spanish and an accent in English, just like I do. With two accents, I'm still gonna make it. I'm still gonna fight, I'm still gonna break through. I'm not gonna let those change hold me down.
Pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá. Te guste o no te guste, a mí me van a aceptar.
Whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to accept me, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here.
Después de la green card, me quise regresar a ver a mi pueblito en plena Navidad.
Okay, so now he's talking about the experience of now, first he has to deal with the prejudice here in this country. So now he decided, I don't care, you're gonna have to accept me. I like it here, I'm gonna stay here. You learn the language. He's mingling in the American world, still thinking about Mexico. And then the first thing he does when he gets his green card is fly to Mexico. And I see that so many times because I have help. I have volunteer and I have work as a translator for immigration. So a person that goes and has an interview, they pay someone to translate for them. I done that. I done it for free, and I also got paid for it. I did it for some friends. And the first thing, one of my friends, the first thing she said, I finally got my green card. Now I'm now going to my country. I'm like, yeah, you get your green card. Well, the first thing they think, let me go back. And I understand. I'm not putting that down. You've been away from a long time, and you can't go back. Suddenly you have the availability, the resources, and you're able to come back and go. Of course you're gonna go back, but don't get stuck. That's the problem. They get stuck only flying to that country over and over every time they got vacation. See other countries. See the world. Now you got the freedom to travel.
Vi a la Rosita y la quise saludar. Se dio la media vuelta y dijo,
Este güey no sabe hablar.
I love that part. So he goes back to Mexico, he's like having his truck and stuff like that, showing off, and he sees Rosita, and Rosita start talking, and she's like, oh, he doesn't even know how to speak Spanish, man, because they make fun. Dominicans are not that bad when it comes to that. They don't care about that so much. Dominicans were more like, you guys are giving us a bad reputation in New York, acting like you don't act here. And I'm talking about back in the 80s. It's no longer like that, of course. Now there's more. Now I think the whole island has been to New York or has lived in New York once or are Americans anyway. So I think things have changed a lot from the 80s. But back in the 80s, that's how it was. Dominicans didn't want to know about Dominican Europe. But they didn't care too much about them not speaking properly in Spanish or whatever. It was more the outfits, the clothing, the jewelry, the drugs. Because a lot of them, since they couldn't make ends meet and work in a factory, not all of them, not all of my people, but many of them got into selling crack. Santana was one of the presidents of Mexico, and he sold parts of, I think it was Texas, part of Texas that he sold to the United States. And he's like, why did you do that? I always talk bad about this guy, this Mexican guy who sold part of our land. That is 100% true. Esa es la realidad. Tú vienes de otro país a este país, tienes que aprender inglés. No importa dónde tú estés. If you're moving to another country, you have to learn that language. You got to try your best to do it, or you're going to be an outlier. You're going to be living in the outside. You want to be part of it. And that's what a lot of people do. They go, at least here, and I know they do that too in the Netherlands, okay? Because I read a lot about the Netherlands. I like that country. I want to go and visit. I never visited Amsterdam. I lived in Berlin, and I visited France, Paris, and another town. I can't remember the name. It was a sea town, and then Spain. But I never went to the Netherlands. Now I want to go. So anyhow, even the Netherlands, for what I have seen the videos, they have an area which they call the ghetto, where all the tourists, or not the tourists, I'm sorry, well, all the people that come from other countries live there. And then they're only, they don't learn Dutch because they can communicate within their own area. And it's people from all over the world. I don't know how they actually do it, but maybe because also they speak English. English is like the united language, or at least they got English. But here, if you come here, you have to learn the language, and you have to try. And I know it's hard. I'm not saying that it's something that you can do, but nothing that is easy is worth it. I mean, everything that is difficult is because it's worth it. That's why it's difficult too. So yes, you come here at a certain age, you have to do your best to try to speak the language. At least try to communicate certain words, not just live out in the outskirts of the American society. So that's why you said learn the language, and I know that they're telling you not to have kids, but forget that. Have more kids, because that way we multiply here and we become more brown, more Mexicans. There's more Mexicans. That's what he's trying to say. And that's been happening and those studies have been done. Caucasians don't have that many kids, they don't. And Latinos do. I mean, now we're cutting a lot. I don't have any kids, so don't worry, United States. But I do have nephews. We're here. So if we want what is ours, we have to work for it. We have to. Echarle gana is like you're putting that effort. You're doing it with enthusiasm. You're moving forward. You have to hyper yourself. To go ahead and get what you want. So you can get what you couldn't get in Mexico. And again, that's not just Mexico. That goes to any other country that you come. Once you're here, you have to put the effort into trying to succeed. Because I mean, hey, you came here for a reason. And especially teenagers, man. I mean, you guys leave high school right away and then you go and you start working. Ustedes dejan la escuela y se van a trabajar. Y yo sé que a veces lo necesitan, pero si tenés la juventud, tienes que echarle gana. If you have the youth, you have to try. I mean, you're young. We all did it. We all had to work and study. So unless you're rich, unless you have, you were one of those, what do they call these things? I had the word yesterday in my mouth, but it's those they have money from the parents and they live off that money. Forgot the word right now. But unless you're one of those kids, you can't. You have to work. You have to study. School is not free.
En medio de la pena me pongo yo a pensar lo mucho que te extraño y cómo quiero estar. México, yo te amo y no te quiero traicionar, pero como dice mi abuela, primero hay que tragar.
So he's talking about here in the midst of the drunkenness. When I'm drunk, I'm thinking about you and I'm crying about you. But Mexico, no matter how much I love you, I have to stay here because, like my grandmother said, first you have to swallow, meaning you have to eat. Once your basic needs are satisfied, then you can think, how to improve yourself in other aspects. But that's Maslow right there. The basic needs need to be met.
Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, con los acentos en la lengua llegaré a triunfar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar. Porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, te guste o no te guste, a mí me van a aceptar. Todo el mundo es compatriota, nadie dice la verdad, pero a poco no se acuerdan, no podíamos votar.
Okay, and this takes me back to 1993, 1994. He's talking about, everybody talks, but there's no action. Do you guys remember that before we couldn't vote? Meaning that if you were outside of your country, if you were outside of Mexico, you couldn't vote. Then Mexico gave dualities, dual citizenship, and a lot of people who were Mexicans and they had their green cards, but they didn't want to turn it into an American citizenship because they didn't want to lose their Mexican citizenship, then became Americans. And I helped those people. I helped those abuelitas. I stood outside of mi pueblo, right there outside, 16 in Valencia, 1993, 1994. Venga, señora, ven, I'll help you fill it out. And then it backfired on me. Why? Because all these Mexicans who became American citizens, the majority of them voted against LGBT rights, the right to marry. They voted against equal marriage back in the days in California when it was still illegal.
México libre y querido, no te puedo olvidar. Con tu bandera en mi cuerpo me van a enterrar. Pero de este lado estoy, y si hay que atacar, dame la pistola, me la voy a matar. Me siento orgulloso.
Okay, so again, he's saying, you know, Mexico, I love you. I'm going to die, and they're going to wrap my body with your flag. But right now I'm here, and if I have to go and kill Bin Laden, I will. Because my loyalty right now is with the United States.
Lo que yo he logrado, en México no valía, me siento para un lado, pero tuve la esperanza, y aquí me superé. Le eché un chingo de ganas, una troca me compré.
So, material stuff again, you know, but what else? Young people at that time, that's what he was thinking about. So he's like talking about what he did here in the United States, how he worked, how he forced himself to become better, to earn more money, and he bought himself a truck. So I send money to my town so that they can, you know, so that I provide for them so that they can alivianar is like, you know, take the burden off so they can be lightweight. He's helping them financially, people that he knows in his town. So I want them to enjoy what I have been able to accomplish, my town people. But no amount of gold, no amount of money is going to make me feel or take away that feeling of how beautiful it feels to live in that country. No amount of money is going to take that feeling away, the feeling of love that he has for Mexico. But that's another fact too there, and that's true. So he's like, Mexico, I love you, and again, when I die, I'm gonna move over there, but I can't right now because your people will not accept me. Los pelones. And I'm not gonna look for it because this video is gonna become too long, and I'll talk about it later on, maybe in another video, hopefully, but I'll just mention it, that the guy, I'm bad with name. What was his name? The guy that was dating Jenny Rivera, the bald-headed one, el pelón. Oh my God, he was interviewed, the real guy, not the actor, but the real guy, and he was saying that, you know, when people look at him, they think he's a gangbanger and stuff like that in Mexico, because that's what Mexicans think about guys who shave their head. So they won't accept him, you know, dressing like that because they'll think he's a cholo. They'll think he's a gang member, you know, and they don't like it. And don't even go into the cartel thing. This is a whole different story. Trust me, Mexicans much rather the cartel than dealing with gangbangers from California.
De la lengua llegaré a triunfar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, te guste o no te guste, a mí me van a aceptar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, con dos acentos en la lengua llegaré a triunfar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, pero aquí es donde me gusta, aquí me voy a quedar, porque no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá, te guste o no te guste, a mí me van a aceptar.
Alright guys, so thank you for coming to the end of this show. I hope that if you are in Cali, love you California, if you are in Arizona, if you are in Nevada, if you are in New Mexico, and any place where they celebrate Cinco de Mayo, I hope that you guys enjoy it, that you have fun. Where I'm at, it's not too crazy with the Cinco de Mayo. I'm going to try to see if I can do something. Remember, COVID is still out there. So be careful, be safe, and I'll see you later. Feliz Cinco de Mayo. Bye.